welcome to the Nurse Preceptor channel. If you're coming back, welcome back, and if you're finding me for the first time, I'm so glad that you're here. Today's going to be a good topic. It's going to be a demonstration. I'm going to show you the mechanics of how to start an IV. I have a, I don't know if you can see it all that well here. I'm going to have a better angle when I go to use this, but this is a piece of artificial flesh. It's got several layers, kind of simulating real skin, and it has a few tubes located within it, a couple different locations, and that's supposed to simulate the feeling of a vein, although I've got to say, if I had a patient whose veins were this obvious, I'd be really, really happy. Sometimes it's not that easy to find. What I will do is talk you through the few introductory steps, and then I will show you how to actually use an IV catheter to cannulate a vein. So there are a few supplies that you need to make sure you have on hand, like ready to use before you ever start unwrapping your IV needle. So of course you need to pick out an IV needle. I have a number 22 gauge 1 inch. 1 inch is pretty standard for most average adult IVs. 22 gauge is relatively small, easy to tolerate for even really small blood vessels for the most part, and even for peds a 22 will work just fine. So this comes as an all-in-one kit. This is the actual cover that goes over the needle itself. The needle itself is not going to stay in the arm. It's going to be this little plastic piece. You see how I just pushed that over top of the needle? What you do is you thread the plastic piece over the needle. The plastic piece stays in, and then you retract the needle at the end. This is just your handle right here to keep a hand on things. And there's a little white indicator. I believe it's made of cotton wicking. And as soon as you hit the blood, it comes back through there, it flashes red, you know that you're in, and you get rid of your needle. Super fun. It is one of those skills that I was very intimidated by as a nursing student, and I got over that fear within about 2 months of practice, so hang in there, it's going to be okay. A couple things you need to have. You really need to have some way of cleaning off your insertion site, and whether that is an alcohol pad like what I've got here, or if your institution requires something like povidone iodine or like a chlorhexidine scrub, check your unit policy or your institution policy. You need to have some tape, and you actually need to pull off some tape and have it ready to go for when you get the IV in place, so that you can anchor it to the arm so that it doesn't go anywhere. And what I do is I pull off a little bit of tape. Good thing about this plastic tape is that it tears very easily. And what I usually do then is tear it in half. So you have two thin strips of tape that you can use to make a chevron anchor to go over your catheter, and then one to put over the little hub to keep it stabilized against the arm so it doesn't wiggle around and cause your patient to freak out. Taped it to the edge of the desk, and I would do that to the edge of the table or wherever I was working from. Okay, sorry about the really crappy videography. The other thing that you need to have is one of those plastic Tegaderm see-through tape bandages to put over it to keep it sterile. The very last thing that you will need to hook up is something at the very end of your catheter to keep the blood from rushing out of it. So whether that is a cap, an IV tubing, or in this case, the only thing I had around the house was just a syringe. So what I would do is plug the syringe into the hub. Okay, this is actually a needle that came on the syringe, but we'll just, for the sake of argument, pretend this is the IV sticking out of the arm. You would hook this in, and it would just automatically kind of cap off the IV. And this, you're not going to be using just a syringe very often. That would be like if you are mainlining an IV drug. And typically we don't just start an IV, put the drug through it, and then take it out. So it's really not practical, but for practice sake, it'll be fine. So bear with me here. The lighting isn't quite optimal. It got really cloudy outside, and I was relying on the natural sunlight. So I have a really bright studio light hooked up here. And what you can see is that if you have an alcohol pad and you kind of brush it over the skin, it will help illuminate where you have areas of texture, like areas where there's a vein that's big and bulging out from the rest of the skin. So once you have Once you have been satisfactory in your attempts to clean off the skin, I'm going to let it dry for just a moment, and you're going to want to avoid touching that part again. One other thing I forgot you're going to need is a tourniquet. Obviously, I don't need one for the fake skin, but if I were to use a tourniquet, I would wrap it above the elbow, nice and snug, to make those veins distend a little bit. Right here, I see a vein. I've been poking around, and I would poke around ahead of time. Oh, that's a great vein. Clean it, and then we're going to just leave that spot alone. We'd have gloves on. We're going to get our IV needle ready to go. I took the cap off of it. Now these ones, if I'm going to show you really close, do you see how it has a nice flat edge, and then there's an edge that has a little bit of like a little bit of a notch there? So you want to make sure that the flat part is at the bottom to where the skin is. We're going to just imagine ourselves on a parallel plane to the skin. The white needle retractor button, don't push it until you are ready for that needle. Pull back and go away. We are going to hold it like right here, and our finger is going to be right here on that little notch. So what we do is we're going to spin the plastic catheter around one time on the needle. Visually check it, make sure there aren't any weird little like fragments where the plastic catheter is sheared or anything like that. If there is, get a new one. And what I'm going to do next is just north of where you're going to be inserting the needle, and you have to go the direction of blood flow. So for a vein that is if you're going for the arm, you're going to be going away from the hand. You're going to be pointing toward the elbow or toward the upper arm. So what I'm going to do here is hold the skin nice and tight. So we go at about a 30-degree angle, and you go right in. And guess what? I felt a nice little give. And if I had blood in this model, there would be blood that would flash back into this little flash point back here. But since there's no blood in it, we're not going to see that, but I could feel it give way. Next thing you're going to do is take your finger on that little notched area, and you're going to gently slide that plastic catheter over the needle. The needle is still in place. In order to prevent blood from backing up, we are going to put some pressure down right where the plastic catheter terminates. We're going to pull our needle not all the way out, but back, and then hit the retraction button. It pulls the needle out by itself. Right now, we're going to want that other thing that we are going to hook into the end of the needle so that if there were blood coming out, it wouldn't be pouring. And what we have to do is secure that, whatever it is that's being placed at the end of the plastic catheter. And what I do is I put a nice stripe of tape across. We do like a chevron shape, kind of up under and across diagonally twice. And just for good measure, you can always tape it again if you need to. And then I put a plastic Tegaderm dressing over top of all of that to hold it in place. So you can see here we have a nice IV. There's no needle in it, it's just plastic. Therefore, it does become a little bit flexible. And at this point, you would want to flush it with some saline and absolutely take off your tourniquet. As soon as you hit that vein, take the tourniquet off or you're going to have a big, big mess. And if you have any questions, please let me know in the comment section. And you might want to check out my previous video on where the best places are to start an IV. Please like, subscribe, and oh, one last thing before I go. Please check out the book that I recently published. It's called You're on Your Own, Preparing for the Impending Healthcare Crisis by the nurse preceptor, otherwise known as Hillary McElhaney, RN. Please check it out. I will put the purchase details below in the description of the video. If you could give me a thumbs up on the video if you found this to be helpful at all, I'd sure appreciate it. Thank you so much. Have a great day. Bye.